It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. This message that you are receiving in this very moment is not merely a fleeting phrase intended to uplift your mood or to temporarily encourage you in the midst of your present struggles. Rather, it is a profound confirmation of what you have already been sensing in your inner being, though perhaps you could not yet articulate it in words or explain it to yourself fully. You have likely found yourself asking in quiet reflection, why now? Why does it feel as though the weight is shifting, as if the very atmosphere around me is changing? Why am I suddenly encountering doors that had remained closed for so long, now beginning to open in ways I could never have forced on my own? The answer to these questions is both simple and profound. This season of your life is not merely a reward for past endurance, but a divine promotion into a higher calling. What is unfolding before you is not simply about receiving blessings for comfort or enjoyment, but about being raised up to occupy a greater dimension of responsibility, authority, influence, impact, and sacred purpose. Before we journey deeper into this seven-layered revelation, pause for a moment and understand the seriousness of what is being released into your spirit. This message is not ordinary content designed only for consumption. It is a divine decree, a spiritual announcement of transition, intended specifically for those who have endured the heat of the fire and questioned why their trials seemed unrelenting. If what you are reading stirs something deep within you, if your spirit bears witness and resonates with the weight of these words, then mark your agreement by symbolically releasing the number 77. This number is not without meaning. It is a sacred signal, a divine marker, an indication to both the Most High and to the order of the universe itself that you stand in alignment, positioned at the threshold of elevation, prepared in heart and mind to receive what heaven has already inscribed as yours. Understand this also. Not every person will journey to the end of this message. Some may pause midway, distracted or unconvinced. But those who remain, who commit to hearing and absorbing the fullness of these words, will discover that they are not merely passive listeners, but active participants in an ascension process. With each unfolding paragraph, you will gain clarity where confusion once lived, awaken to deeper truths that had remained concealed, and unlock confirmations that your soul has been waiting to hear. Let it be known then that what you are encountering is not crafted hype designed to excite your emotions, but the release of divine instruction meant to activate your spirit. Just as no true promotion is grasped all at once but is gradually lived into, so also this word must be absorbed over time. Do not limit yourself to a single reading or a momentary hearing. Instead, return to these words again and again. Read them, meditate on them, revisit them as often as your spirit leads you. For each time you re-engage with this message, another layer of revelation will unfold. Another key to your next dimension will be placed into your hands, and another veil that once obscured your understanding will be lifted. Now, beloved chosen one, prepare yourself with full awareness. This season is not the season of mere reward. This is the season of divine promotion. Now let's go deeper. Chapter 1, the hidden season of sacrifice that formed your foundation. Chosen one, understand this truth. Before every divine promotion ordained by heaven, there must first be a divine process of refinement, and that process is almost never glamorous, nor is it announced with applause or recognition. Instead, it unfolds quietly in the background of your life, hidden from the sight of the crowd, taking root in the unseen places where no spotlight shines and no celebration is given. It is in those seasons that you walk through trials with little affirmation, carrying a weight so heavy that it seems invisible to the world, yet fully observed by heaven. Though people around you may have overlooked your journey, disregarded your sacrifice, and failed to notice the cost of what you were enduring, the eyes of the Almighty saw it all, recording each tear, each prayer, and each step forward. This season you endured was not merely a waiting period, as if time had stood still. It was a season of sacred sacrifice, a crucible designed not to destroy you, but to break you open in order that God might rebuild you, fashioning you into someone stronger, wiser, and unshakable. It was not a one-time test, easily passed and quickly forgotten, but a repeated stretching of your faith and endurance. Trials that came emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and even financially. Each challenge arrived like waves against your soul, yet instead of allowing yourself to collapse beneath the weight, you chose alignment. At moments when bitterness could have taken root, you chose kindness. When the world presented you with rejection, betrayal, or hatred, you made the decision to keep walking in love, refusing to allow external darkness to extinguish the light within you. You showed up consistently, not for the sake of recognition, not because anyone was clapping for your resilience, but because your heart was anchored in something far greater than temporary comfort or public approval. You gave generously even when your own reserves felt depleted, offering encouragement, support, and strength when your spirit itself was weary. You remained loyal to those around you even when disloyalty touched your life, refusing to let the failures of others dictate the condition of your heart. You spoke words of encouragement into the lives of people who had no idea how much you yourself were silently hurting, ministering from your scars while no one knew the depth of your wounds. You prayed in hidden places where no ear but heaven could hear. You cried silent tears that no hand but God's could wipe away. And still, with faith stretched thin and strength nearly gone, you pressed forward. Each act of perseverance was a declaration to the universe that you were not defined by your pain, but by your unwavering commitment to the higher calling within you. What looked like silence to the world was preparation in the spirit. What felt like isolation was actually consecration. And what seemed like lack was, in truth, the divine shaping of your character, chiseling you for the greater responsibility that awaited. That season you endured was never a sign of weakness, though at times it may have felt as though you were breaking under the pressure. In truth, what you carried in silence was the evidence of a strength that had been forged in the fire of adversity. You were never stuck in stagnation, even when it seemed as though nothing was moving forward. Rather, you were being shaped, refined, and chiseled into someone greater than you were before. Every trial you faced was not wasted. It was building your endurance. Every delay you encountered was not a denial. It was strengthening your character. Every disappointment you walked through was not a dead end. It was stripping away the pieces of you that could not be carried into the next dimension of your destiny. You were being enrolled in a spiritual boot camp, a hidden training ground designed by heaven itself, even if you did not recognize it at the time. While others were consumed with chasing attention, applause, and validation from the world, you were being quietly called into alignment with your higher purpose. That period of silent sacrifice was never punishment, though at times it felt heavy. It was preparation. It was heaven's way of molding you into someone who would not only receive the blessing, but also carry it with integrity, wisdom, and stability. For God is not seeking people who can simply be lifted up to positions of influence. He is seeking those who can be entrusted with authority, responsibility, and spiritual weight. And you, chosen one, have been counted among them. God saw everything that others overlooked. He saw the way you maintained your integrity when compromise would have been easier. He saw the moments when you turned away from opportunities that looked attractive on the surface but were not aligned with your calling. He saw the times when you deliberately chose peace over pettiness, humility over pride, and prayer over retaliation. While the world measures value by numbers, by bank accounts, by followers, and by popularity, heaven measures you by the condition of your heart. And it was your heart that passed the test. That is why what is coming into your life in this season is not merely another blessing for you to enjoy, but a divine promotion. You are not simply being rewarded for surviving difficulty. You are being elevated because of your obedience, your faithfulness, and your consistency. You chose to remain steadfast when it made no sense. You stayed faithful when life did not feel fair. You pressed forward when quitting would have been easier. And now you are stepping into the fruit of that hidden season. Rest assured, nothing you sacrificed, nothing you cried over, and nothing you lost in that chapter will go unnoticed or unrewarded by heaven. Yet understand this. This is not primarily about reward. This is about readiness. God has seen the silent sacrifices, And now he declares, I can trust you. For you did not merely endure your trials, you grew in the midst of them. And because of that, this promotion is not temporary or fragile. It is divine, sealed, strategic, and set apart by heavenly decree. This is not the end, but the beginning of a greater unfolding. Welcome, chosen one, to your next level. What you are walking into now is not something earned by striving in your own strength, but something unlocked by surrender to the will of God. And because of that surrender, this promotion will stand. Chapter 2. You have surpassed the space that once contained you. Chosen one, the discomfort you have been experiencing lately is not a signal that you are walking in error, nor is it an indication that you are somehow missing your path. Rather, it is the undeniable evidence that you have grown beyond the limitations of the level where you once resided. You have not only outgrown it in the natural sense of maturity and responsibility, but you have outgrown it in the deeper, spiritual dimension of your being. The very environment that once felt suitable for you now feels restrictive, not because it changed, but because you did. Your conversations began to take on a different tone. No longer are you drawn to shallow exchanges or meaningless distractions. Your priorities shifted, aligning more closely with the weight of your assignment. What once brought you joy and excitement now leaves you unmoved, for it no longer satisfies the hunger of your soul. The challenges that once stretched you now appear elementary, and the pursuits that once held your attention no longer have the power to captivate you. This is not inconsistency. This is evolution, the natural result of growth that refuses to remain confined. Promotion always follows growth, and whether you have been fully aware of it or not, your soul has been expanding. Your awareness has reached new depths. Your spiritual capacity has stretched beyond former limitations. The way you think, the way you respond, the very energy you carry, all of it has been transformed. You do not reason the way you once reasoned. You do not react the way you once reacted. You no longer dwell in the same mindset or frequency. You have shifted dimensions. And why has this happened? Because you are being prepared for something far greater than the place you have been standing in. The level you once occupied cannot contain the version of you that God is unveiling in this new season. What once nourished you now feels insufficient because your appetite has matured. What once shook you now feels insignificant because your perspective has widened. What once inflated your ego now grieves your spirit because you are no longer led by ego. You are led by an assignment. This is why certain rooms now feel suffocating. Certain conversations feel draining. Certain friendships begin to fade, not because of offense or betrayal, but because alignment has shifted. It is not personal, it is positional. Your growth is demanding new ground, new space, new relationships, new challenges. You are not leaving people behind because you are better than them. You are simply being called forward by a higher purpose that will not allow you to shrink in order to remain where you once belonged. The truth is this: you cannot reduce yourself to fit into an old container. You cannot dim your light to make others comfortable in their shadows. You cannot silence your growth to maintain spaces that no longer nurture your becoming. Your calling is pulling you forward, and your destiny will not permit you to remain where you have outgrown. Let this truth settle deeply within you. Chosen one, the tension you are feeling in this present moment is not the evidence of failure, nor is it the sign of defeat. Instead, it is the unmistakable indicator that your season has shifted and that the space which once held you in comfort has now become too confined for the vastness of your spirit. What feels like restriction is not designed to crush you, but to catapult you. You are not stuck, even though circumstances may appear tight. You are being launched into a dimension greater than the one you have known. There is divine reasoning behind the unraveling of certain areas in your life, even though you tried with all your strength to hold them together. There is a higher purpose behind the sudden loss of interest in pursuits that once consumed your energy and attention. There is intention in the way certain relationships and people you leaned on have now drifted from your side. God Himself has allowed the old to fall away in order to make space for the new identity He is calling you into. What looked like loss was not truly loss. You did not lose them, you leveled up from them. You did not fail, you graduated. Understand this. Real growth is not always accompanied by applause, celebration, or recognition. More often than not, it is marked by separation, by the quiet distance that comes when the old cannot follow the new. That is exactly what you have been experiencing. Not because heaven is punishing you, but because heaven is preparing you. You are being lifted to a level where old habits cannot survive, where old thinking cannot sustain you, and where shallow relationships have no power to remain. The shedding of your environment is not random. It is the evidence of the seriousness of your elevation. And know this with assurance. Heaven has been watching your transformation every step of the way. God saw the moment when you no longer needed applause to keep moving forward. He saw the shift when you stopped defending yourself to people who would never truly understand the depth of your anointing. He saw when your actions began to change, not as a performance for others, but as a reflection of your desire to stay in alignment with Him. He saw the moment you transitioned from reacting out of raw emotion to responding with divine wisdom. You no longer crave validation because you have finally come to understand your identity. You no longer perform for attention because you know you were sent, not just seen. And because of that, your transformation has been authenticated by heaven itself. What looks like separation on the surface is in fact preparation for greater elevation. Chapter 3, Passing Tests. You didn't even realize existed. Chosen one, much of what you endured in past seasons did not come with clear warnings, nor with obvious labels to guide you. There was no signpost announcing, "This is a test." Instead, you were simply living, navigating pain, attempting to survive, seeking to heal, and striving to remain faithful in the midst of uncertainty. Yet hidden within those ordinary days, within the silence and the struggle, divine examinations were unfolding, and heaven was watching closely. These were not casual inconveniences. They were not ordinary trials. They were sacred evaluations, tests not written on paper, but etched into the fabric of your daily choices. Every moment when you chose love instead of allowing bitterness to take root, every time you held your peace when retaliation would have been easier, every time you stayed in position when your flesh cried out to walk away, these were divine assessments and you passed them. You were tested through betrayal. Trusted voices turned against you. People you loved failed you. Friends you believed would stand beside you chose to walk away. You could have allowed your heart to calcify, to close itself in bitterness and unforgiveness, but instead you chose to release them. You forgave, not because they earned it, but because you refused to allow pain to poison your spirit. That was not weakness, it was spiritual strength in its purest form. You were tested through rejection, doors you knocked on refused to open, opportunities you pursued passed you by. Despite giving your best, you were overlooked, unseen, and undervalued. Yet you refused to let those closed doors define your worth. You kept your posture intact. You kept your faith steady. You declared by your actions that if God permitted the door to remain shut, then it was not punishment but protection, not rejection but redirection. You were tested in silence. When no applause came, when no encouragement echoed back, when your sacrifices went unrecognized, when your generosity seemed unnoticed, and when your prayers appeared to go unheard, you kept showing up. You chose consistency over compromise. You remained kind in a culture of cruelty. You kept serving with diligence, not because you were being watched, but because your heart belonged to something greater than validation. And here lies the divine power of it all. You did not even realize these moments were tests. You were not acting righteous because an audience was watching. You were not posturing holiness for applause. What you did flowed genuinely from your heart, and that is exactly what God was searching for. Heaven was not measuring your performance. Heaven was measuring your purity. The test was not whether you could shine on a stage, but whether you would remain rooted in love, anchored in truth, and surrendered in obedience when no one was clapping, when nothing seemed to make sense, and when silence felt deafening. And you passed. Without even knowing you were taking the test, you passed. This promotion is not about recompense. It is about divine positioning. For God has observed that your identity remained unshaken even amidst unstable circumstances. You succeeded in tests not because you possessed every answer, but because your heart remained aligned with His will. And therein lies the distinction between those who are merely gifted and those who are truly called. Gifts may be cultivated, skills may be trained, yet character can only be validated through testing. And now God can entrust you with greater responsibility, not simply because you endured hardship, but because you refused to allow that hardship to alter your essence. You continue to love, to believe, and to show up faithfully. This forthcoming season is neither coincidental nor a matter of chance. It serves as divine confirmation that your faithfulness over the small matters has prepared you for rulership over much. You did not merely survive trials, you matured, you were refined, and you were elevated in private long before public recognition would arrive. Your name is being exalted in spaces you have yet to enter. Doors are opening in response to your heart having passed divine scrutiny, and heaven is now releasing blessings that had been contingent upon your readiness. Chosen one, this is your appointed moment. You have passed the test you were unaware you were facing, and now the reward awaiting you is none other than divine elevation. Chapter 4. This promotion signifies purpose, not personal gain, and it is crucial. Chosen one, that you do not mistake it for a mere reward for what you have endured. This next level is not an accolade for past struggles, but a divine release into the fullness of who you have been created to be. A positioning that transcends luxury, image, applause, or accolades. For it is about legacy and the sacred assignment God has prepared you to carry for eternal impact. You are not being promoted to settle into comfort, ease, or complacency. Rather, you are being elevated because you have been forged in fire, tested in silence, and meticulously prepared in secret, having developed within yourself the strength to bear burdens that others could not, the wisdom to lead when others retreated, and the compassion to shine light in spaces others feared to enter. This elevation is not intended to increase what you possess, but to increase who you are. It is about transformation, growth, and the embodiment of responsibility, spiritual grounding, intentionality, and influence. And as you step into this new level, you are not stepping into ease, but into a mantle of purpose that requires maturity, vision, and unwavering alignment with God's will. Yes, blessings will flow. Yes, favor will follow you. Yet these are not the ultimate aim. They are tools, instruments through which the real breakthrough will be realized. The breakthrough of what you are now being entrusted to build, the spaces you are now called to impact, the atmospheres you are now empowered to shift, the stories you are now positioned to transform, the generational chains you are now destined to break, and the healing and awakening you are now assigned to ignite within those who have been called to your light. Your elevation is not a result of chasing greatness, but of embracing growth. It is the reward for obedience when the path was painful, for prayer when understanding was absent, for giving when your own resources were scarce, and for faithfulness when recognition was delayed. You did not seek the spotlight, yet the spotlight now seeks you, not to inflate your ego, but to amplify your divine assignment, to broadcast the calling that God has entrusted to you, to ensure that your influence extends far beyond personal gain, and to guarantee that the gifts and blessings you carry are neither hidden nor compromised, but deployed fully for the purposes of heaven. God knows that your motives are pure, that your foundation is unwavering, and that you will neither hoard the blessing nor dilute the gift, which is why this elevation is happening now, in this appointed season, in a moment that is not random but divinely orchestrated, perfectly aligned with your readiness and the destiny that has been prepared in secret for your revelation. You are not being called to rise merely to escape your current circumstances. Rather, you are being elevated to lead, to construct bridges where walls once stood, to breathe life into places long dry and barren, and to blaze a path for those who believed it could never be done. And in this ascent, you are not simply rising for yourself, but being strategically planted in a position of authority and influence so that as you climb, you carry others with you, and with such a mantle comes profound responsibility, for greater platforms demand greater accountability, and heightened visibility requires deeper humility. God is placing influence in your hands not for self-exaltation, but to direct hearts back to Him, not to parade blessings, but to manifest transformation. This promotion is rooted in kingdom strategy, empowering you to enter rooms and shift entire spiritual atmospheres without uttering a single word, to bring peace where chaos reigned, vision where confusion persisted, and direction where wandering prevailed. Your next level is not defined by status, recognition, or personal gain, but by service, by the lives you touch, and by the integrity with which you have survived every trial. You are being elevated not because you made it, but because you endured with steadfast faith and are now prepared to guide others toward the same resilience. Your assignment is measured by souls rather than possessions, by impact rather than income, by calling rather than clout. And yet blessings will accompany your rise because God rewards those He can trust. But always remember, the overflow is not the measure of your mission. It is merely fuel to sustain and advance it. Chapter 5. You have been promoted spiritually even before anyone has recognized it in the physical world. Before things change outside, something must change inside. Chosen one, what you are feeling now is not confusion, it is confirmation. Your soul knows you have been elevated, even if your surroundings do not show it yet. This is why life feels different. This is why conversations no longer feel the same. This is why some rooms feel too small and some relationships feel like echoes of your past self. Your spirit has moved up, even if the outside world has not caught up. This is a sacred in-between space. You have grown internally even while things around you look the same. That tension and disconnect is proof that you have ascended emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Now your external life is under pressure to match your new level. But know this, what has already shifted in the spiritual realm will eventually appear in the physical realm. God always promotes what is unseen before showing it publicly. He anoints before He announces. He affirms before He reveals. Just because people haven't noticed the change doesn't mean it hasn't happened. You don't need a title, a platform, or an audience to prove what God has already declared over your life. That is why you feel the need to let go of things that used to feel important. That is why some environments now drain you instead of feeding you. You haven't lost interest. You have gained insight. You are not discontent. You are being moved from where you no longer belong. Yes, it can feel lonely. Yes, it can feel confusing. When your spirit is ahead of your body, you may feel like a stranger in familiar places. But do not shrink. Do not try to fit back into what you have outgrown. This is not going backward, it is redirection. You have been spiritually advanced because God is preparing you for visibility. But first, He had to mature you in hiddenness. Before the world notices you, heaven has to approve you. That inner change, that deeper peace, that clearer vision, and that refined discernment are all proof that your promotion has already happened in the most important place, the spiritual realm. Do not be discouraged by what has not changed on the outside. Do not measure your new season with old surroundings. You are in a birthing zone, not a burial ground. Your time in the hidden place has not been wasted. It has been holy preparation. Now that your spirit is aligned with your assignment, everything around you will come into order. The right relationships will find you. Doors with your name on them will open. Opportunities that match your anointing will appear. But know this, chosen one, not everyone will recognize you, and that is okay. This promotion is not about popularity, it is about purpose. Hold your head high, not in pride, but in clarity, not because you are better than anyone, but because you are becoming who you were created to be. This is what spiritual promotion looks like. You sense what others cannot. You are led by what you cannot see. You carry peace even during delays. You walk on purpose long before platforms arrive. Chapter 6. Higher levels come with greater authority and greater challenges. Chosen one. Elevation does not come empty-handed. It brings power. It brings visibility. It also brings resistance. Every time you are promoted in the spirit, a shift happens around you. Both heaven and hell notice. You are not just entering a better season, you are stepping into a higher assignment. With that assignment comes new authority. You are now carrying more spiritual weight, more light, and more responsibility. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are walking in the truth that you already are. But that also makes you a target. The enemy is not attacking where you have been. He is trying to stop where you are going. He sees your future. He knows what God has spoken over your life. His plan now is to distract, delay, or discourage you before you fully step into your influence. That is why you face strange battles. That is why old patterns and people are trying to pull you back. That is why you feel pressure that does not make sense. This is not a step backward. It is a spiritual reaction to your progress. But here is what you must remember. God would never give you new battles without giving you new weapons. You have been equipped. You have been empowered. You have been given discernment for this new level. You have wisdom that exposes traps before they happen. You have spiritual armor that protects your peace and focus. New angels are assigned to this level of your journey. You are not alone. This time, you are not just praying to survive. You are declaring victory. You are commanding strongholds to fall. You are no longer reacting. You are responding with spiritual authority. Do not let the opposition make you doubt your position. If the battlefield feels intense, it is because your presence is making an impact. You are disturbing darkness. You are changing environments. You are walking with influence that cannot be hidden. Stay focused. Stay protected. Stay aligned with your purpose. Distractions will come, but they cannot stop you unless you let them. Keep your eyes on the assignment. Remember, you have been trusted with more because you have grown into more. Do not panic when the enemy appears. He has already lost. His weapons may form, but they will not succeed. Not this time, not at this level. You have been elevated to fight with confidence, speak with clarity, and move with divine authority. No matter what rises against you, heaven is supporting you. Chosen one, your promotion is not just a position, it is a posture. Walk in it boldly. Chapter 7. Your promotion, though it will be visible to all, has always been deeply personal between you and God. And as you step into this next chapter of your life, chosen one, brace yourself, for the elevation God is bringing you into will be undeniable, and those who once overlooked, dismissed, or disrespected you will witness His hand lifting you higher, not out of revenge or for show, but as a revelation of His faithfulness, because you know the nights you cried alone, the battles you fought in silence, the pressure you carried without breaking, the loyalty you gave without recognition, the sacrifices you made when no one was watching, and God knows too, having seen your obedience when you had nothing left, having heard your prayers when your faith was hanging by a thread, having watched your integrity when compromise would have been easier, and having measured your heart when others only saw your struggle. So this promotion, which is more than a breakthrough, is heaven's response to your hidden faithfulness. God's public yes to your private surrender, a sign that the process was not in vain, that obedience produces fruit even when it takes time, that what is planted in tears will bloom in joy, and that God not only keeps His promises, but perfects them. And though this moment may be visible to all, it is not about getting even or showing off, but about glorifying God, who is the one writing this chapter, preparing a table before those who once doubted you, opening doors that no one can shut, placing you in rooms where your name carries weight, and giving you the courage to speak what you once could not. But hear this, do not let the spotlight distract you from the source, and stay grounded, stay humble, and stay anchored in the truth that this promotion is not merely for celebration, but for assignment. Because there is still work to be done, souls connected to your obedience, territories to claim, chains to break, and a legacy to build. And this is not the finish line, but the launch point. And remember, you are not being rewarded for merely existing, but for enduring, for passing the tests, for remaining loyal when walking away would have been easier, for choosing purpose over popularity, for being trusted with trials and remaining trustworthy, which is why this elevation carries weight and bears heaven's signature all over it. And though it may feel sudden to others, to you it is sacred, because you know that this is not just your moment, but your confirmation. For you were prepared for this, molded for this, and now you are stepping into everything God has shaped you to receive. If you're eager for more, whether additional chapters to this spiritual journey or a powerful visual concept for a video or thumbnail, simply just say the word. I'm here and am ready to help bring it all to life.